Morning, everybody. Got some guests. So have a seat, guys. Wanted to just take a few minutes to share with you something that has been going on relative to VBS. As you may or may not know, our VBS is coming up at the end of the month, and we're excited about it, and it's always a great event. The curriculum that we've been using for years is put together by an organization called Group Publishing. And so this year, just at the beginning of last week, we got word through social media, really, that there were some issues with this curriculum, and basically that it was racially insensitive. And so Chris Graves, our children's director, got together her team, her VBS team, to begin to look at that. And they also invited to look at it with them members of the Hope community who are African American, to make sure that we had a perspective that we may have been lacking. And so through that process, we discovered that indeed there was parts of this curriculum that were really insensitive and needed to be corrected. So rather than you hearing about this on social media and wondering what is going on, I wanted to just take a few minutes and share with you what's happening. And I invited to do that with me the Coopers. So this is Josh Cooper and Heather Cooper. They've been coming to Hope for
8-9 years now?
8 or 9 years.
10, 11 years.
10, 11 years. You'll get it. Josh is, in addition to a dad, happy Father's Day.
Thank you. Same to you.
Elijah and Azzy, thank you. He works in our kids ministry. He serves in our Kids Connect both here and at Mount Laurel. Both Heather and Josh do that. He's also working with our youth ministry throughout the year. Heather, in addition to helping out with our kids, is also a member of the Hope Lead team. So kind of our board of directors, and so Heather's been a part of that team for a couple of years as well. So when you got the information, Josh, and we're reading some things in the curriculum, tell us about your reaction to it.
Well, it was a little surprising, and probably the most surprising part, the part that stood out to me the most, was seeing where the curriculum had some of the teachers in the classes treating the children in a way that was demeaning and would bring about animosity and anger. It was trying to help children understand what it's like to be an Israelite slave and how the Egyptians were treating them. And I just thought that was surprising. It's disappointing, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were saying when we talked about it that had you been a dad not a part of this and you walked in and saw that playing out in a classroom,
had I seen that playing out in a classroom, I would have removed Elijah and Azzy, and just I would have felt like I needed to unpack all that was happening and that they were experiencing, because I don't think you need to reenact that part of the Bible in that way to help someone understand what it's like to be a slave, any more than we reenact what it's like for Jesus to die on the cross.
right? Yeah. Heather, how about you as you were looking at the curriculum?
Well, I believe the way the conversation went with Josh and I is he said he would have cried if he walked in on that. And we would have left the church because we would have been so shocked that this was being portrayed. And so I'm so grateful that Chris thought enough of us to want to reach out and ask us our thoughts. And I'm also, not only I'm African American, I reference myself as black, but I'm biracial. So sometimes I feel like I look at different sides of things, or I look at both sides, but it wasn't even about a color thing in that moment. It wasn't depicting, it's like you have this theme of Africa, but then you have this other Israelite slave concept, and it wasn't matching, like it wasn't coming together to really show what we as believers of Christ are. So I think it was really hard that it had an undertone of slavery that just has, years and years, thousands of years of oppression that come up for people that really feel just, I don't need to see that in that way. I don't need my kid to live that out. My child can understand that through a story, but we need to tell the whole story and not
Right.
just this one side.
Right.
Yeah, so the theme of the week is, it kind of has this African theme as well, right?
Yeah, like
African safari.
African safari, right? And so some of the portrayals just in terms of Africa or
They're limiting. Africa is more than one country. It's an entire continent. It's a variety of people, a multiplicity of cultures and races and languages, and it's a lot of things. And so to limit the concept to Africa, all of Africa, and the safari at that is limiting.
So you've been part of working with Chris and the team on redoing the curriculum, so it is more sensitive and more inclusive. How you feeling about the process? And
I think the process is good. Chris and I spent a good amount of time talking about it. We looked at what the curriculum was intending, the message that it was intending to relay, and we tried to think of ways that we can accomplish it without having a limited perspective. Instead, expanding the perspective and the narrative to include a variety of things that relate to Africa. And for example, one of the videos showed, two of the videos actually, that were scheduled to be shown at VBS involved people who, from different parts of Africa, who wore very little clothing and spoke in in a specific language, and that was all that was shown.
yeah,
And the continent of Africa and all the countries in Africa are so much more. So we came up with different ideas to show a variety of things that include Africa, but more importantly, get to the central theme that VBS is trying to relay.
that's great. So that's being worked on, and I'm still excited about VBS, and especially now that the curriculum has been improved. The group has issued an apology. They have sent their own corrections as well, and so I think it's been an important learning time for all of us. So I had this just last question. You folks, you've been coming for somewhere between 8 and 11 years.
11.
And given the complexion of this community of faith, what made you stay? Like, I understand why you might come, but what made you stay?
What made us stay?
Yeah.
Well, we started coming because preschool is what initially brought us here. And I expected to be treated differently when I came here, just because I'm black and I stand out and it's a mostly white congregation. And so just being treated differently is just part of what I expect in life, as I have just in the experiences that I've had in life. And so I wasn't sure that Hope Church was going to be the best place. I was willing to give it a try. But what I found is quite the opposite, in a good way. I have not at even one time felt treated differently, or it's nothing racial at all, and everyone's welcoming and inclusive, and it's really encouraging.
Awesome.
So that's what kept us here and made me want to come and join and serve and be a part.
I
And
think,
you,
Jeff,
Dad?
yeah, what you say often is that we hope emulates love. And so it's not about the tone of my skin or where I come from or what we experience, but I think that my kids feel loved here.
Absolutely.
And that hope emulates love and inclusion, and that we're a diverse group of people, backgrounds, generations, all aspects of us that come together as one body of Christ. And I think that's what really makes hope.
Yeah, we want to represent all of God's creation.
Amen.
And we want to be inclusive of everyone and everyone's ideas.
And
Because
VBS
that's what heaven's going to look like.
What it's going to look like, exactly.
And VBS is an opportunity for that inclusion now. It's almost
Yeah.
like it's evolved and we've opened our eyes and our scope. You know, that Africa is one continent, but it has all these diverse groups of people, and that we can learn about that and that they're God's people too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks for being a part of this community. Thank you for your work with us on making the curriculum better, making a VBS experience for our kids better. And we love having you guys here.
Thank you.
God
Thank you
bless
for all
you.
you do as well.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks.